Hello, welcome back to Pompous Unhelpful Knit. Welcome back to my channel. I haven't done a video in a while and I've actually really missed it. Don't know why I say actually really missed it. I just have missed it. And I didn't do this in April, so I'm going to do a big video for April and May, so strap your boots on. And also I am a little bit ill, so that's why if you notice that my voice sounds gross, it's because of that. So, cheers. Sorry, that was disgusting. So the first film I watched in April was Celine and Julie Go Boating. And this was a really, really fun watch. So for anyone that doesn't know what it's about, I should also preface it by saying that it's like 3.5 hours long. So if you don't have the time to watch it, don't, because it is very long. The way I described it to someone recently is it's almost like an Alice in Wonderland type fantasy film about two women rewriting how they're perceived under the male gaze, which is kind of insane, and it's an insane movie, and I just thought it was really, really interesting. It's really experimental. Yeah, it's just like these two women that are kind of trapped by the way that men perceive them, and then they go on this one like huge kind of fantasy quest to rewrite themselves, and it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall. So yeah, Celine and Julie Go Boating. I loved that. Some reviews of Celine and Julie Go Boating. The roles offered for women were mistress. Can't read. The roles offered for women were mistress, frail wilted woman, me, nursemaid and victim, also me. So the spectators broke in, played themselves, emphasis on the play, and rewrote the ending. The most hilarious revolution, I'm a Vap on wheels. Yeah, I really like that. If I could fucking read it. Yeah, so that was Celine and Julie Go Boating. Then I rewatched Beau, Travail at the Prince Charles with my friend Tava, and it was fantastic. I was really excited to watch this on the big screen because the first time I watched it, I was just thinking that I wanted to be watching it in the cinema, and I wasn't. I actually watched it for the first time on my iPod Nano, just in case anyone cared. But anyway, so second time I watched Beau Travail, it's just a completely mesmerizing, beautiful, magical, hypnotic film. Like, I truly have not seen anything like this. The imagery of it is just so like stoic and just so devastating at the same time, and you have all these like strong bodies that are all kind of flailed all over the place, and they're all maintaining this kind of illusion of masculinity, and then you have these moments that kind of shatters the illusion, like when, you know, the guy's having his head shaved and he just laughs a bit because it's tickly to have someone touch your head, and, you know, all of them peeling the potatoes and having the birthday cake, and you kind of see this like idea that their bodies are like these cages, and inside you have these like beautiful, like tender men. They're all just kind of trapped. It's just beautiful. And the ending, like, you know what really got me this time watching it? What really got me this time was that scene when they're all walking through the desert, and I think it's a Neil Young song. A Neil Young song, and they're all walking through the desert, and that moment was just so, oh my god, I just like, it's just hypnotic. It's just absolute magic. So yeah, I love that. And obviously the ending, every single time that ending, I say every single time, I've seen the movie twice, but like, oh my god, that ending is just beyond perfect. And I don't have anything smart or insightful to say. I just think this is a perfect movie. So now I'm going to read some reviews. I'll read my review from the recent time I watched it. I wrote, the scene where Santan has his head shaved and tries not to laugh is the most special thing ever put to screen. Beautiful, delicate men in their pursuit of intimacy through aggression, where the simple act of peeling a potato or having birthday cake might be the only escape from the facade. There we go. My friend Tava said, the masculine physique is a cage, human bodies, vessels of repressed vulnerability, emotional impotence. Perhaps one of the most restrained participatory cinematic experiences of all time. The way Claire Denis controls and obscures information, both in the frame and in the details of a scene, is a form of subtlety years beyond anything I've ever seen. Yeah, agreed. So then I watched The Long Goodbye, which I've been meaning to watch for the longest time. And I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a really sexy, slick, kind of smoky, lovely, old-fashioned feeling kind of film that's just like really hot. That's the only way I can describe it. This movie, I have a crush on this movie because it's so smooth, you know? It's like, you just have like Elliot Gould and he's just wearing suits and he's just smoking and he's lighting matches on every available surface and he's just like living in this cool house and he isn't like creepy towards his neighbours. And I love that as like a running gag where you have these like naked girls on the balcony next door and everyone's like obsessed over them and he's just so not, you know, perturbed by it at all. So for anyone that doesn't know, The Long Goodbye is basically just about this detective that's trying to solve the crime of a friend that has been accused of murdering his wife. And it's kind of this like modern film noir feeling thing, and it's all set in like LA, but it's really funny because it's kind of like an anti-film noir detective story because he's so laid back and so chilled that it's just really funny that he gets himself into these situations and he just is so casual about the whole thing. He's just the epitome of cool. Some reviews I liked. Josh said, "The tragedy and hilarity of being a cat aimlessly wandering a ruthless dog-eat-dog world." That's funny because there's all these jokes made about how he doesn't like dogs. Fran said, "I want Elliot Gould to breathe on my face." Me too. I also just really like the bit where he got given a dried apricot at that girl's house and then he was like, "Oh, sorry, apricots give me diarrhea." Never found anything more relatable. So yeah, I just love this. Such a sexy film. Then I watched A Fire, which my friend recommended to me. I thought it was interesting. I really liked the mood of this. So the film is about this writer that's staying with his friend for a holiday because he wants to finish his book, which has a really stupid name. The book is called Club Sandwich or something. And then this woman arrives at the house and it's kind of about how his relationship with himself and this idea of genius and this idea of like crippling ego are all explored through his relationship with this woman and through the writing of his really shitty book. I don't know. I understand the messages within this film and I think they are interesting, and it's kind of about this idea that like, you know, we are creative to celebrate the best things about life, to celebrate love and to celebrate friendship and to celebrate all these like beautiful things. And it's about this guy that's like so serious about himself as an artist and a writer, but in doing so he's blocked off all of the things that are sources of inspiration, and he's become so like egotistical that like he cannot take any criticism, and he also can't let anyone in and show anyone his work. And it's because of that he can't write, because he doesn't let anyone in and he doesn't have any influences in his life to be inspired by, because he's so closed off and protective over his work. And that is in itself a really devastating idea, but I just found his character so unlikable, because whenever I see men like this, it triggers the most deep anger inside me that I just cannot like enjoy it fully. Because I don't know, there are probably a lot of people that could probably watch this movie and be like, "Oh, that's a really interesting lesson. He's an unlikable character, but what an interesting lesson." But I watched this film, I'm just filled with rage about all the men that I've met in real life that are exactly like this kind of person. I've met hundreds of men like this, and when I see full movies being made about them, I just hope that the character dies at the end. And he didn't die. In fact, he ended up being celebrated and rewarded for his disgusting behaviour, because it's implied that he ends up with the woman that he was treating like shit for the entire duration of the movie. So, yeah, I don't know. I liked it, but it obviously pissed me off, as you can probably tell. Sorry, I'm sick. Some reviews that I liked. Someone said Portrait of an Incel on Fire. Yep. I really like this review. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I keep thinking about Leon's tattoo, the way the framing in his partially unbuttoned shirt again and again lay bare its edges without ever allowing us to take in its entirety. In a way, the most hidden tattoo is as a perfect cinematic object. On the one hand, it is a device of audience control because it keeps up our interest in the protagonist and especially in his body, which is never exposed, and which also never becomes expressive via acousmatic sensual emanation. Okay. His body is always trapped in dark, often completely black clothing, yet something of interest just has to be there underneath. Basically, this person's written like a whole kind of essay on just his tattoo, and I thought it was really interesting. Okay, so then I watched Yanik, which was a movie watch. Shout out to my biggest haters, my biggest enemy, movie. So Yanik is interesting. It's basically about these people doing a play that's kind of shitty, and then slurp, and then a man gets up in the middle of the play and he basically just like has a go at everyone, and he's like, this play is really shit and you're wasting my time. And it's quite interesting. It's kind of like a bit of an experimental film about the nature of the relationship between artist and audience, and like the performer and the people that like watch, you know. I don't really think it's got enough in it to be as long as it is, and I say that and it's only 67 minutes, but like I think it probably would have been better as a short, because towards the end you're kind of like, yeah, I get the idea, like can we kind of move this along a bit. It was definitely funny. I definitely found it funny, and I think it's an interesting conversation that they're trying to approach in the film. Some reviews of this. All the reviews are in French. J'espère sincèrement qu'il a pu déguster son sandwich. Yes. So the next film I watched was Jeanne Dielman. Dun dun dun. The monolith. The queen of all cinema. It is Chantal Akerman. So this is one of those films that I watched and I would not shut up about it to everyone that I met. So I've heard of this film, I've known of it for a very long time, and I've just never made the time to watch it because it is 202 minutes long. And it is a very challenging watch. It is by far the most challenging film I've ever seen, because the whole premise of the film is kind of testing you and playing with this idea of boredom to make a statement about the nature of the character's life. And it just goes into really, really precise details and shows absolutely every aspect of her routine. And it is so suffocating to watch because everything is so dull and there's just no feeling and there's no life. And by the time you get to day 2, you realise that this is her everyday life. This is exactly what her routine is every single day. And when you slowly come to that realisation and kind of see how suffocating and how trapped she is and how meaningless her life feels and how it's so depressing that like the entire world revolves around these habits and like chores and the invisible labour of women, and yet they will still be seen as invisible and they won't even be thanked for it, even though the entire world hinges on this type of work, you know? And then slowly, tiny things happen that kind of disturb her routines in very small ways. So after about 2 hours of watching this, like you are bored, and then you get to day 3, and then suddenly she's peeling a potato and then she drops one on the floor. And I genuinely gasped. I can't speak. I genuinely like gasped out loud because it was just so startling and shocking to see something not go as planned, and these small things that punctuate your day become the only thing that define your life, you know? Like when this woman drops off her baby at her house and they talk about dinner and what they're going to be cooking for dinner and all this kind of stuff, and it's such a mind-numbingly boring conversation, but they have to flesh it out and talk about it because it's the only thing they have. Cannot recommend enough. My review of this film: mind-numbing and devastatingly boring, but in the best way possible. Such a challenging watch, and I definitely found it hard to keep my attention on it. But what a film, and such an incredible ending. Day 3 was bleak as hell. The shot of her sitting at the table staring into nothing after kneading mince and making coffee was actually painful to watch. The idea of just existing as this invisible ghost of yourself, yet all the work you do keeps the world ticking away without anyone ever seeing you or thanking you, is just beyond depressing. a life made up of a routine and nothing else, living for a build-up of inconsequential moments. Chantal is a genius. Yeah, I kind of agree with what she said. But anyway, yeah, I just think this is an incredible movie, and I don't think I'll ever be over something like that. So then I watched Evil Does Not Exist with my friend Katrina. Yeah, this was really interesting. I thought it was very peaceful, but also the peace was very disturbing. The calmness was very disturbing because you know that there's unrest under the surface, and there's kind of like this like threat of violence throughout the whole thing, kind of showing all sides to humanity and our relationship to nature and the world around us. I thought that was really interesting because you kind of start off with these people that are living in this town, and they're angry at these people that want to come in and build this campsite, rightfully so. But then you slowly realise that these people that are living off the land are kind of just as bad as each other, and they're all taking from the land in their own ways. And it's kind of about like human entitlement to the natural world. You start off thinking that these agency workers are really evil because they want to build this campsite, but by the end I sympathise with them the most. I thought their lives were the most depressing because they'd been so distanced from the natural world through capitalism, and they were working jobs that they really didn't enjoy. Both mentioned that they had wanted to be artists when they were younger, and they were both lonely and talking about what it's like to be on dating apps. And to me, that was the most devastating conversation in the whole film, that conversation that they have in the car, because it's these two people that are just kind of slaves to capitalism talking about all these dreams they had of life and how they're not possible. And they go to this town where those dreams seem possible for all the people that live there because they live in the nature and they live in the woods. And I actually empathise most with those characters, and I thought that was a really interesting commentary on itself. Will said evil does not exist because everybody is just doing their job. I'm also going to be a bit quicker now because I just realised I've been recording for 30 minutes and I've only I've only talked about like 5 movies, so I'm going to pick up the pace, okay? So then I watched Dr. Sleep. I watched this with my friend Nona. We accidentally watched the 3-hour cut of the movie. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I really liked the kind of production design of it. I love the kind of world building of it. I really liked the way that it kind of played with these like typical horror tropes and then explored them within the context of The Shining and like the aftermath of trauma in Danny. And I liked the kind of look at his gift and how that's affected the rest of his life. I thought that was interesting. Yeah, I thought it really fell towards the last part of the movie. We were talking about it afterwards and we didn't really like the fact that he ends up going back to the site of the Outlook Hotel. Thought that was really weird. Overlook, whatever. He went back to the Gmail Hotel, and yeah, I just didn't really like that. I thought that was kind of a bit of a cheap cop-out, and I thought the other aspects of the movie were more interesting and they could have been explored in a different way instead of like leaning on tropes from the original movie to end it. So then I watched Memoria. I definitely could talk about this for a long time, but I'm going to try and keep it brief. But it's about this woman that kind of wakes up in the middle of the night and she hears this really loud banging noise, and it's about this sound that just kind of haunts her for the rest of the movie, and her trying to figure out where this sound is coming from and what it means. And it kind of disturbs the deepest part of herself and just puts her into this state of like unrest and dissatisfaction as she's trying to figure out like if this is something that came from her and whether she's just going insane or whether it's a real sound, which is such an interesting premise for a movie. Like, what the hell? It's just very, very interesting. And I know that there are lots of different theories about this movie, but my theory, I thought it was about empathy, and it's about this one woman who's like really in tune to this like collective subconscious, and you know, she's a very empathetic person, and she's kind of in tune with the memories and pain of other people. And I wrote in my review, she's kind of embodying this form of empathy that is rare and dying in a modern world, much like the orchids that she looks after, because her job is like she looks after orchids. Yeah, like the doctor later on in the film, he tells her she shouldn't take antidepressants because it will kill her empathy. And I thought, to me, that kind of confirmed this theory that this is like her gift, you know. But then at the end of the film, she speaks to this guy. This amazing scene, it's just incredible. And he is someone that is fully in touch with the world around him and with the earth, and he lives off of the earth, and he's really just in tune with like the natural world, and he appreciates all the beauty around him and even the smallest things. And it's through him that she's able to recognize and kind of sit with this gift that she has, because he also shares it as someone that is so in tune with nature. I thought that was really interesting, and it kind of makes a point of like how amazing and necessary this like human quality is to be empathetic, but how it's kind of dying. And it's like only when she's in a natural setting, when she's in this jungle at the end of the film, that she can return to what is natural for humans, and she can recognize this gift for all that it has to offer. And I thought that was so beautiful. So yeah, that's my take on Memoria. I'm not going to say anything else. So then I watched The Lovers on the Bridge, because I have a big fat crush on Juliette Binoche. And it's about these two young people that are both homeless that are living on this like abandoned bridge in Paris. And it's kind of like a love story, but it's like a really depressing, dark, decrepit love story set in like this really bleak environment where these two people are living on a bridge and they have like nothing but each other, like literally nothing. It kind of becomes this like weirdly fantastical film about the power of love, I guess, and about how when they have each other, they're able to kind of make fun of their circumstances and able to survive it and find like joy in it. And it kind of just feels like this encapsulation of like what it feels like to be in love and have these feelings that are just kind of like exploding and all, you know, lovely. Some reviews that I liked of this film. The Lovers on the Bridge is a beautiful and sensitive film that finds a balance between luck and misfortune, madness and poetry, beauty and ugliness. So then I watched Challengers, which is obviously a very popular film right now. My timeline on Twitter just won't stop talking about it. I really wanted to love this. I really did. I wanted to love it so much that I pitched to make a video essay on it before I'd even seen it, which is up on the Little White Lies YouTube channel. You can go watch that if you want. And I ended up not really liking it, and I was quite disappointed. So yeah, I just felt quite bad about that. For me, it felt really messy. I thought it was just all over the place. I thought it had this kind of surface level exploration of these themes, but I didn't feel like it was explored in any deeper way. And I just felt like it was kind of basic and messy, and I didn't like the way that it cut back and forward. I didn't like the fact that it relied on the music to make you feel like something is happening and to induce like excitement and like anxiety when it was really not, you know, nothing was happening. Like they'd just be having a normal conversation and then the music will come in and be like, you know, like really loud. I don't know. It's like, yeah, there are some great shots in it and visually it's interesting, but to me it also just felt oversaturated with shots. It's like you kind of lose any impact from all of those things because there's just so much happening at once. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the performances were good, but I thought the characters were really underexplored. I didn't think that the script was that great, especially Tashi's character. I thought that she was really underdeveloped, and I thought that Zendaya was doing really well with what she had, but I just didn't really think there was that much there. Especially because apparently there's this whole thing in the script about how like Tashi's from a working class background, and that's like her motivation for like doing all of this, because she doesn't want to lose like financial power, and she doesn't want to lose her position because of her family and the fact that she's like from a working class background and stuff, and she's had to work really hard to get to where she is. And that doesn't come across in the film at all. And I think that's a really interesting point of this idea of like class and like the way that, you know, she earned this power and then this injury threatens that power, and it's about not wanting to go back to this life that you used to have. I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, I don't know, there was obviously some great moments, like the final tennis match was really exhilarating, and I did like the idea of like, okay, yeah, sometimes you can just want to be with people that aren't that good for you, and you just have this like strong desire that doesn't make sense, you know. But overall I thought it was messy. And I thought it was overrated, and I think to me Challenges is the same as Saltburn. Yeah, to me this is like another film that's like part of the Saltburnification of mainstream cinema, where somebody makes something and everyone thinks, oh my god, it's so deep, it's so blah blah blah, it's so this and that, look at the cinematography, and people tweet a million screenshots of different parts of the movie on Twitter, and it's like, I don't know, to me it just didn't speak to me on any kind of deeper level, and it felt really flat to me, because it's like, okay, yeah, hot people and good music, obviously you're going to be kind of like drawn in and manipulated through those elements, but like beneath that, what else is there? I don't know. I'm probably in the minority. I definitely am in the minority, because I know that people loved this, but sorry, I just couldn't. Okay, this is my favourite review. Made me thirsty, but not in the way you think. Not a single athlete in this entire movie drinks water. Bitches were drinking Gatorade, bitches were drinking coffee, bitches were drinking orange soda, but nary a bitch was drinking water. Bitches were carrying water, but nobody drank it. They were playing tennis so hard, they were sexing so hard, I know they had to be parched. Anyway, I mostly had fun, but the real winner is that fucking score, which will now be on repeat in my house. Though I have to say, a lot of the moments where the score comes in were giving Dear Sister. Funny. So then I watched The Sweet East, and I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really funny. Just kind of oh fuck. I just spilled coffee everywhere. 1 minute. Sorry, just had to clean up my mess. My coffee mess. Just to clarify. Yeah, so The Sweet East, I thought it was really funny. It's kind of like a satire and commentary on modern America, but to me, it was also kind of a satire about the way that men perceive women. And this girl is kind of trekking through the different ways that men will define her. It's like an odyssey through those definitions of how people perceive her as a young woman. Someone said, I'm not going to tell anyone about your faggot god camp. Funny. Then I watched Happy as Lazzaro. Yeah, I just thought this was a really devastating film. Really devastating. There's nothing more devastating than watching a very kind-hearted, pure soul being treated like absolute shit and exploited for their kindness. So Lazzaro is this guy that's basically like kind of enslaved by these like really rich people on this like tobacco farm. And it's all about what happens when they're freed and they go out into the real world. And it's all about like how they adapt to that as a family. And it's about like poverty and kind of about like what is freedom. They weren't aware that they were enslaved when they were on the farm, but they were happier because they thought they had freedom and they were in nature. And now they're living in a city and they're miserable and they're aware that they're technically free, but they have none of the same quote unquote freedoms that they had when they lived on this farm. So it's this kind of idea of like, to him, he's just kind of happy, and modern society kind of tests the nature of him as a person, and this idea is being happy as Lazzaro. And it's just really depressing because you know that there are people like this that are just so exploited within these systems for having a good soul, and it slowly destroys that good soul. And that's the biggest crime of all, that there are good people that are worn down and broken by the system, and they kind of lose that spark of what makes them special. So yeah, I thought this was a really beautiful film. Some reviews. What is the role of a saint in a world that has turned its back on God in favour of capitalism? It's real and funny and aching. The movie makes a potent political point while conjuring a modern day myth out of faces, objects and gestures. That's really nice. I'm going to stop there and finish this later. Sorry, I actually had to stop recording, so now it's another day and I'm recording the rest of this video. And as I say this, I am in a horrible mood. So the next film I watched was The Idea of You. Don't really want to talk too much about this, but it's just exactly what you think it is. Reviews of The Idea of You. Reporting live from I Hate My Life, TM. When August Moon makes it in my Spotify Wrapped, I need everyone to look away. So the next film I watched was Love Lies Bleeding. And I absolutely fucking hated this. Anyway, yeah, so I just didn't really think the script was that good. I thought that it was just cliche and like the actors were just working with nothing and I just felt bad for them. I don't know, I wrote a massive review about it on my Letterboxd page, so if you want to know in more detail what I didn't like about it, go read that. But yeah, I just thought most of it just came down to bad writing. So yep, some reviews of Love Lies Bleeding. Can you tell I'm done with this? Can you tell that I'm done with my life? I'm done with the film industry. I'm done with every single thing. I think for anyone that's considering working in the film industry, don't do it. If you're good at something else, do that first. Why did my parents have to make me so badly that I can't be good at anything that's practical and useful, and the only thing I know how to do is write about or talk about movies, and the cinema is dying, and I'm also dying because I'm fed up with this whole thing. And there are people in this industry that earn millions, and people in this industry that are like fighting for opportunities at like the entry level kind of area and earning like less than minimum wage to do so, only to realise that the industry doesn't even want them there in the first place. It just wants your labour, and it just wants to exploit you, and actually no one gives a shit about your stories or the things that you want to share. Yeah, people consider like Yorgos Lanthimos and fucking Luca Guadagnino to be independent directors nowadays, but they're not independent directors. Independent directors don't exist anymore. It's a dying art form, and the only people that are independent are people that have wealth and access to opportunity in the industry. And the film industry has just become a playground for rich kids. Maybe, I don't know. I think I will quit. Thing is though, I can't quit because I literally don't know how to do anything else. I have no tangible skills. Cool, anyway, I don't want to talk about this film anymore. So then I watched Barry Lyndon. Fuck, I'm going insane. I really liked it. I thought it was really good. Yeah, I liked that it's kind of like a himbo epic, and I was surprised by how funny I found it and how camp and, you know, humorous it was. Yeah, I just thought it was really amazing and beautiful, and just the framing and the visual style of it was incredible, and I loved the bit where Lady Lyndon and Barry kissed for the first time. It was really good. Oh my god, sorry. Pulling myself together now. Reviews that I liked. Brianna said the life and times of a little stinker. Reese said if I lived in the 1700s, I too would just go on absolutely every side mission imaginable. And True said I have found the ribbon. That was a really funny moment. So yeah, I loved Barry Lyndon. I thought it was incredible. Although I watched this at the Prince Charles, and I don't like that they did an intermission. I thought that was kind of pussy behaviour, to be honest. So after watching Barry Lyndon, I was in a real mood to watch another Ryan O'Neal film. So I decided to rewatch Paper Moon. And I think Paper Moon is a really beautiful film. Just so simple and just so old-fashioned and heartwarming in the most kind of endearing and lovely way. It's just shot beautifully. The relationship between both of them on film is really lovely, and then you read about their relationship in real life and it's completely tragic and devastating, so don't do that. Tatum O'Neal is just such a talent, such an incredible talent. I just couldn't stop myself from laughing and smiling whenever she was on screen, because she's just so charismatic and just such a natural performer, and it's just so amazing to watch. So yeah, and I love that it doesn't rely on like kind of cringy cliche movie tropes to make it feel more emotional. It kind of is this really sparse film, but even in those elements it manages to make you feel so much without you ever feeling like you're being manipulated or like you're watching a film, you know? Like the moment where Addie gives him the photo of her sitting on the moon, and you're just like so blown away by that moment, and there's complete silence, you know? It's just like looking at that image, and it's not got some huge dramatic score to make it feel really dramatic or extreme or whatever. It's just really like pure. My favourite reviews of Paper Moon: Ryan O'Neal casually handing his 9-year-old daughter a lit cigarette has got to be one of the funniest images ever committed to celluloid. Yeah. Sydney said, I can't think of many other films that stay heartwarming without being corny so gracefully. It is so rare to see a film that can make you laugh and cry without manipulating you into it. There is no swelling music here, no trademark Hollywood. Look at this, feel something, close-ups. An impeccable period piece with a delicate soul. Yeah. You still owe me $200. So after Paper Moon, I watched Perfect Blue. I really can't be bothered talking about any of these. I'm just so not in the mood now. After my little breakdown, but basically, yeah, Perfect Blue, I thought it was really good. Thought it was very psychological, very scary. It could easily have been made last year and it would still be relevant to stuff that still goes on within the industry. I just really thought the idea was interesting about the kind of like commodification and exploitation of the female image, and this idea of this woman and her body and her sexuality kind of being like sold within the media, and how that is despicable and disgusting. And it could easily be about like Disney child stars, you know, and its criticisms of the industry are still so relevant today. It's just very scary. So I thought Perfect Blue was very smart. I thought it was very smart and very chilling and very harrowing. So yup, that was good. Some reviews of this movie that I liked. And Dashcam said a documentary about being an actress. For real. Oh, also, I watched F is for Fake, but I fell asleep. So yeah, then I watched La Chimera. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was beautiful and complicated and subtle and just really like delicate and lovely. It's basically just about this guy that's kind of always in this state between life and death. He spends all his time digging up graves and like tombstones, and he's also pining for this person that was the love of his life that isn't alive anymore. And it's kind of about through both of those things, his like waking life and his like his past and these memories that haunt him. He's kind of always living in this state of like purgatory. Yeah, it was really just like unlike anything I've ever seen before. Some reviews. Cinemonica said the constant search of life after it's lost. Alice, I don't know how to say your last name, sorry, captures the loneliness of a man burdened by loss and enchanted by the past. He's hanging on to love and life by a thread. Beautiful to look at, to feel, to experience. Yeah. And I watched What a Way to Go. Don't want to talk about this for long. I thought it was really ratchet. It's just kind of like a very camp movie that's just very silly about this woman who accidentally finds herself marrying rich men, and they all die and leave the money to her. And she's trying to find a guy that's like really poor because she doesn't want any more money, but then she'll marry someone that ends up becoming really rich. And it's just kind of like the whole movie's just a gag. It's just a bit of a joke. Grace said the ideal boyfriend has absolutely no clout and one pair of shoes. Agreed. Then I watched Horde, and I thought this was incredible. And it's the first film I've seen in a while that's just felt truly original and like risky and kind of daring. The film explores this idea of trauma and the sometimes illogical and inexplainable ways that it manifests itself and how it can be reignited by really small things. With Maria and Michael, the two main characters, it explores this idea that this kind of trauma is like a wild animal that smells bad, and you can only unleash this animal and smell other animals that have the same scent when you're with another person that's been through the same thing. And through being together, it makes them act in this like really like crazy kind of feral way, like they're only able to express this really hurt side of themselves when they're around each other. But they can also express this like childlike side of themselves around each other as well. So it's kind of the juxtaposition of both those things. Yeah, it's just a really like complex look at trauma and the many ways that it manifests itself. That's really messy and quite hard to watch, but really beautiful in the way that it unravels. So yeah, I thought Horde was amazing. Yep. My favourite review guy said, once in a while you start watching a film and you're immediately drawn into its world, even if you don't fully understand it, as you know that it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. Then I watched Sidewalls. I thought this was fine. It's just really not my cup of tea. I thought it was going to be a more kind of like subtle kind of before sunrise type film, and it wasn't. It was one of those films that's like kind of trying to be really cutesy, and it's got animations and little voiceovers and little like drawings all over it, and you're like, just stop it. So I didn't really like it. Some reviews of Sidewalls, I don't care, I don't want to read them. Sorry. The next one I watched was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, and I thought this was really interesting. So this is my second Peter Greenaway film, I want to say. Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's just very tense. It's very like theatrical, and normally I don't really like films like that, but it really works within this context. It's kind of all set within one place. It's all set in this restaurant, and it's about this woman that's in an abusive relationship with the owner of the restaurant, And every night they go to the restaurant, she forms a relationship with one of the customers there. Yeah, it's just interesting. The set design is just stunning, and like the colours and like the kind of way that it plays with tension is really interesting, and the way that slowly festers throughout the whole film, and it's just really grotesque and disgusting and kind of hard to watch. I just thought it was a very powerful and also like kind of pungent film, you know, you can almost like smell it, it's just so disgusting. Reviews I liked. Nick just said, check please, me if I was in this movie. So then I watched Zola. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought Riley was amazing in it. I thought the style was really just kind of zany and unique, and just very fun, unique style. Some reviews of Zola. Brett said, shout out to the weirdest penis I've ever seen on screen. Yup, that was really not fun to watch. So then I watched on the same night Red Rocket. Don't want to talk too much about this because I think it's been talked about to death, but I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was really interesting how I could feel so much empathy for this character whilst also being so disgusted by him, and it was really heartbreaking that he kind of been made to feel that his only place within this kind of entertainment system and within capitalism was his like sexual appeal. So yeah, I thought Red Rocket was great, and I also love the use of NSYNC as like a recurring musical motif. I thought that was brilliantly done. Cookie said, I love when movies about sex aren't sexy at all. Yes, I completely agree. Then on the same night, again, I watched Me and You and Everyone We Know. And I didn't really like this. I think I have a bit of a hit and miss relationship with Miss July. Kajillionaire. I liked Kajillionaire, but I just didn't really love this. I thought it was a bit like too weird and unmotivated, and like I get the kind of correlation between the different events and storylines in the film, but when you're watching it, it comes across as quite random and like unrelated. Like it's trying to be like really artsy for the sake of it, and you're kind of like, just say something. Just please give me something to work with. And that's kind of how I felt when I was watching it. My favourite reviews. Lucy said, the I want to poop back and forth scene just changed my life. My review, I said, that guy was low-key me after I got electrocuted when playing Sims. Now I understand that review is kind of ambiguous and annoying, but genuinely the beginning of the film where the guy gets his hand set on fire, that was what it was like when I got electrocuted whilst playing Sims. So yeah. Then I watched High Life. Yeah, I don't know, I was quite torn by this because I definitely felt things, but I wasn't entirely sure what I was feeling and what I was taking from the film. I think I kind of took from it that it was about love and how like love transcends all of these things and all the technological advances that we're trying to make, and ultimately they're all futile because nothing will beat the power of love. Not my words. It just felt very deliberate and very precise, but also really open-ended at the same time, and I kind of liked that there was so much space within the film to explore its meaning. I thought that was impressive, even if I didn't understand it. Some reviews of High Life. Keek said, Claire Denis understands that the most open spaces can make the most oppressive prisons, especially when the autonomy of your body is at stake. Interesting. Yeah, that's a really interesting take on it. Josh said, moving backwards even though we're moving forwards. Yeah, that's it. That's the movie review. So then I watched Goodbye Dragon Inn. I watched this at the Prince Charles. It was raining. I turned up looking like a rat, as I always do. And I just sat in this dark room and it was raining outside, and I watched this beautiful kind of life-changing movie about movies. And it was a really touching, beautiful, life-affirming experience, to be honest. I just think it's incredible. It's like, for those of you that don't know, it's about a movie theatre on its like final night before it closes down. It's about the people that visit the movie theatre. I don't know why I say movie theatre, it's a cinema. It's about the people that visit the cinema on its final night, and it's about the ways that movies touch our lives and the way that cinema is kind of facing obsolescence because people are reluctant to let themselves be touched by things. Yeah, it kind of made me lose my mind in a good way and a bad way. It made me feel something very strong and intense, and I felt really overwhelmed and upset and nostalgic, and I felt like we're losing something. And I also felt grateful to have cinema in my life, even though it simultaneously ruins my life, evidently. But yeah, I just think it's a really beautiful, special film, and I love the way that Tsai Ming-liang uses slowness and how he uses that as like a tool for empathy. I thought it was genius, complete genius. Some reviews of this film that I liked. This review is so beautiful. Claire said, "Cinema of my dreams, about looking at people, at movies, at people in movies, at people through movies, at yourself, about remembering movies, remembering people, remembering yourself, reaching out and standing next to and breathing the smoke of and lighting a cigarette and next to someone's feet. Rain indistinguishable from the hum of the projector, ghosts, memory, death of cinema, love of cinema, loss of cinema, remembering, the process, the cycle of cinema going, film watching, arriving, watching, walking home, communing alone. I have empathised with no moment in movies more, perhaps ever in my life, than when the film oscillates suddenly back and forth from the ticket girl to the warrior girl. The pinpoints of light on her face, her eyes completely alight. I saw myself seeing myself. Above all, an eternal love of movies, being haunted by them, remembering them. Elegy for all the souls who go looking in them, all the souls in them, who are haunted by them, who haunt them. A song for the wonderful, sad mystery of what movies are, always fading, fading away, alone and together." Fuck's sake, that's such a nice review. Yeah, so that was Goodbye Dragon Inn. Ooh, so then I watched Fast Reformed, and I thought this was good. Just loved how bleak it was. It was just so bleak and full of feeling, but in the most awful way, and I thought that was really gripping and just very telling about our current state of world, and just about like the relevance of like hope. So some reviews of this movie that I liked. Kayla said, "A life without despair is a life without hope," and I thought that was good. Then I watched Badlands. Yeah, good. It's a classic. Didn't really connect with me on a much deeper level. I liked the voiceover of it, and I liked the kind of coming of age feeling of it, and I liked the kind of dreamlike state of it, and just this idea of like the crazy things that love will make us do. But also I do think it's interesting that it's kind of just about how hot people can get away with anything, because people will just assume that you're great when you are very attractive, and I think that's really funny. When I was younger, I was really ugly. And I definitely noticed a big difference in the way that people would treat me when I had the quote-unquote like glow up as like a late teenager. And I just find that so funny that people are so, I don't know, that predictable, that people can change the way they treat people based on how attractive they find them. It's just really funny. Then I watched Hitman. Yeah, I mean, it was funny in places, but the movie kind of pissed me off. But basically, I thought it was not very well written. I didn't really like her character at all. It was kind of like Manic Pixie Dream Girl. Yeah, that kind of annoyed me. And I thought the movie ended really abruptly, and it was really strange. And they kind of wrapped up the plots and the problems that it created in a really quick way by just being like, oh, now we're going to cut to the future and they're married. I don't know, Glenn Powell's funny. He's a great, like, comedic actor, but I thought the movie was poorly written, and I came away from it thinking, what did Richard Linklater have to pay for in his personal life that made him agree to do this movie? And then I was like, oh, because he's doing a 30-year-long project with Paul Mescal, and he probably needs to fund that, so it's probably why he accepted a Netflix movie with a shitty script. It was fine. Reviews that I liked. I don't really care enough for the reviews, I don't think. I also didn't really like the point of the movie where it was like, oh, if you want to fall in love, just like change every aspect of your personality. I was like, okay, that's a bit mean. Not very inclusive to people with bad personalities. So then I watched a film that was actually sent to me by someone that watches my videos. Yeah, so that was cool. So basically, a subscriber called Solomon has made a film, and he sent it to me. It's called Lady What's Tomorrow, and I thought it was really well done. It's kind of all set in Cornwall, and it's about this like old man on Christmas Eve that's basically reliving his like regrets and like painful parts of his life and all the things that didn't happen and the dreams that he had that didn't come true. And it's kind of this like very bittersweet, kind of nostalgic, very regretful kind of film about this man looking back on his life. It was shot really nicely. It was very like chatty, you know, it was all conversation, it was all dialogue, and I thought that was really impressive. And Solomon told me a little bit about the production process, and it sounds like that was a lot and that was a challenge. Yeah, I thought it was really great. Yeah, I'll ask Solomon if I can put a link in the description to the video, but if you do get the chance, then definitely watch that. Support your local independent filmmakers. It's a tough industry out there, so if people want to go watch Solomon's film and say nice things, then please do. So thank you, Solomon, for sending that to me. Then I like movies. I don't know, I liked aspects of this. I liked the last half an hour after the character changed, but the first hour of the movie I thought this character was insufferable, and I thought that there was nothing funny about him because he is just a misogynist who loves movies, and I've met enough people like that in my real life. I don't need to spend 90 minutes with this person as well. Yeah, the character was insufferable in the first hour, and I get that that's the point, but I just don't really find that funny because I find it too triggering. It wasn't really an ode to movies. To me, it was kind of like an ode to incels, and then the guy kind of changes and then he becomes nice, but I was like, he's still just kind of a bit of an asshole for most of the film. Pardon me. Reviews, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Vonnie just said he's not likeable enough to get away with that behaviour. Yeah, completely. I rewatched Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I don't really want to say too much about this because it's just a fantastic movie and I don't have anything smart to say. What really hit me this time round was just how quiet it is and how smartly Celine Sciamma uses music, and how much that ending makes me feel like absolute shit. Oh my god, like my heart was pounding and I felt so anxious in that final moment when she's sitting in the like opera room and you're just watching her. And I just think that's perfect. Just the idea of like making a movie about the idea of being looked at can be thrilling, it can be terrifying, it can feel like you're being seen, it can feel like you're not being seen for who you want to be. And I just think that making a film about that in the way that Celine Sciamma did is genius. Do all lovers feel like they're inventing something? I feel like I'm inventing a bag of poo. No, sorry. Then I watched 2046. Yeah, I don't know, I just kind of decided I don't really love Wong Kar-wai. I don't really connect with his work. To me, they feel like kind of visual poems where it's all like images and music, and the combination of the two of those kind of creating this mood. And I understand the mood it's trying to create, but it doesn't really make me feel anything because I just love people talking, I love chatting, I love conversations, and there's just like no script to this movie, you know? It's just like deliberate creation of like images, combining that with musical sequences, and that's supposed to make the mood in you, but it makes me feel nothing, and it just makes me feel frustrated because I don't connect with that type of filmmaking. So yeah. Do I want to talk more about this? No, I don't. Then I watched Shampoo. I was kind of just confused because I heard that Warren Beatty was like a huge heartthrob back in the day, and I watched this and just thought, how? Yeah, I don't know, it's just kind of a silly movie, you know, it's just about like a hairdresser that's really horny and sleeping with all these people and fucking up his life, and I just thought it was a bit of a joke. It's not really anything serious, so yep. Patrick just said, let's face it, I fuck them all, that's what I do. The ultimate Warren Beatty line of dialogue. Yeah, it feels like he isn't really playing a character, it feels like he's just being himself. Then the last film I watched this month, I actually really loved, was The Heartbreak Kid, directed by Elaine May. I was kind of surprised by how much I enjoyed this. I just put it on and I wasn't expecting too much of it. I just thought it'd be kind of a silly, goofy time. I thought it was great. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really witty. I thought it was really insightful. I thought it was really cutting. And I thought it was really just telling of like the male ego and just the complete delusion of this man that thinks that he's entitled to everything that he wants, and the lengths that he goes to kind of make options for himself and create this life that is so obviously unattainable and ridiculous. So yeah, Elaine May is a queen. My favourite reviews of this movie, Will Sloan said, there's no insincerity in those potatoes, there's no deceit in the cauliflower, this is a totally honest meal. That moment was so funny, it's crazy. And Karsten said, you stay the hell out of Minnesota, you goddamn newlywed. So yeah, just a fantastic film. Yeah, so that's everything I watched in April and May. Sorry for the state of this video. I'm really sorry. I'm clearly going through something. Couldn't tell you what, but I know that I am upset. So anyway, I'll sort myself out. Side note, in my last video, I said that I was going to be uploading a Kelly Reichardt video, and I was like, oh, maybe in like a week. Clearly that has not happened. Don't talk to me about it. I don't know why I said a week, because I hadn't even finished writing it at that time, so that was a complete and utter lie. In other news, the managing editor of Letterboxd just followed me on Letterboxd, which is insane. I think that him following me on Letterboxd is like if Anna Wintour followed me on Depop. Or Vinted. If you watch this video, thank you for sticking along. I do really want to make more proper essays. I have so many ideas for things that I want to talk about, but I've just been struggling to balance my time and actually make this stuff and be creative. So yeah, let me know what you watched in April and May. Let me know if you have any recommendations. And yeah, I'll see you here next month.